Under this yew tree here we have this other monument, and it's really sad because it seems like a whole family was wiped out, and they were from Great Stew, which is another very historical townland around here, and she was Mrs. Lennon, and I see here that her child of about 3 years and 4 months died, another baby. Now, I was here another time, and I think there were about 5 children died in 1880, but we don't really know why, but it was in a short period of time, but it was because of a sickness, because it wasn't just one night. It's sort of within about 5 months of each other, 4 months of each other, so a lot of sadness here. We're here in the graveyard of Ballybuckle. Now, Ballybuckle is the town of the staff, because Patrick's staff was kept here. And Ballybuckle was so important because of this staff that it belonged to the Diocese of Armagh for hundreds of years until the time of the Reformation. At the time, in the 1500s, the time of the Reformation, they brought this staff into Christchurch, and there it was burnt because it was seen as something very superstitious. So that's one connection with Ballybuckle, with the staff of Patrick. The other connection is with Dublin, because Ballybuckle was actually the farm of the Abbey in St Mary Street in Dublin. And Ballybuckle, it furnished the Abbey in Dublin in the 1300s, 1200s with food, with corn, with hay. It was the farm, and the people of Ballybuckle would have worshipped in this church, which was called the Church of the Assumption, like the church we have today, because of this connection with the Virgin Mary and with Mary's Abbey in Abbey Street in Dublin. And it's interesting to note that churchyards, they're always on a high ground since ancient times, with a great view over the local area. Behind me is the beautiful east window made of sandstone, and you can still see the holes which were from ancient times for the lead windows, and you can see the tiny little bust of the Virgin Mary inset into this east window. Now, this church, as I said, from about the 1300s, would have had a roof made of wooden tiles or shingles, because there actually were no local slates. There was only local purple limestone. So the roof, we would have had a wooden roof. And when you look inside also, we can still see some of the plaster from the old times. The church now was a ruin by 1630. But it would have always had a connection with the Augustinians before that. And an interesting thing to note is that they had to pay taxes here in about the 1300s to the Augustinians, even in England, in Gloucester in England. People here had to pay taxes at that time as well. If you look down here, you can see like a cupboard made of stone, and it would have held the receptacles for the Mass, for the holy bread and the water. And then beside it, you see this niche, which was plastered, would have had some decoration, and that's where perhaps an assistant priest or the altar boys would have sat. But as I've said, the church already was in disrepair by 1615, and by 1630 it was roofless. So after that, people, perhaps the local people, they probably went to somebody's house to celebrate the Mass, because it was then Protestant, so they weren't allowed to celebrate the Mass anymore. Just looking again at this stone ladder, the reason for this is to actually go up and ring the bells with a wooden stick, because they didn't have bell ropes at that time. And you find this feature in Hollywood as well, in Howth Church, and also in Concealy Church. When we go through this little Gothic doorway, we will go and see a very interesting monument, the 1798 monument. Here we see a great example of the local purple limestone, this beautiful arch, and of course we've the hartstongue fern growing everywhere all over the church. Here at the north corner of the church, I'm actually standing here by this old corbel, and this is actually the remains of the old sacristy from about the 14th century. And now, just around here, we see this very important monument, the United Irishmen, because the last battle of the 1798 revolution happened here in Ballybuckle in Drishogue. The 14th of July, 1798, and the pikemen, they were buried here. And as you can see, this beautiful monument with the pike on it, and also with one of the old Irish flags on it with the harp.